Some footage in this video is from players around the community. Their links will be in the description of this video, as well as the music too. Movement in Destiny is about to change dramatically. So what does this affect? Why is this happening? Why should you care? And what does this mean going forward? Let's answer all of those questions and more in this video, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. We're almost at 40K, so let's do it. Just like I stated in my Worldline video, movement has always been a core part to Destiny. It spans all the way back to Titan skating in Destiny 1 with shoulder charge and Trick Sparrow flying, to exotics enhancing the way we move around the world like Twilight Garrison and Bones of Ao. These don't only affect speedrunning, but the way the overall player base experiences movement in the game. None of these were originally intended to make players move this fast, but the results were pretty clear once they came in. These tools became the gold standard of skill gap in the sandbox, and players still vouch for them to this day. Nothing was quite as satisfying as seeing some of the most insane plays people were able to make with these. Probably the best example of high skill gap movement though was the Worldline Zero. Like I said before in the Worldline Zero video, and I will say again, Worldline created an unintended glitch in player speed and movement with the Tesseract perk, which enabled the user to warp across the map at nothing short of electric speeds. Speedruns have never been the same since, and most of the game's vast areas have been skated through faster than it took me to read this sentence. Seriously, there has never been a world record to my knowledge in Destiny 2 without a Worldline. But it's not just speedrunning communities either, it's the general player base that also uses this weapon in this way. Showing friends new to the game what Destiny 2 has to offer and swearing that they'll show them the cool strikes and raids, only for joining allies to pop up every time they play together. Worldline created a movement skill gap similar to something you'd see in something like Mario 64, Titanfall, and some other movement-based games. This weapon has helped change the way we play the game, but also a huge piece of why some players keep coming back to the game. So why do I keep bringing up Worldline, and why are we talking about a dramatic change coming to Destiny? I'll keep it frank with you. Worldline could be seeing some big changes in the upcoming sandbox of March 2019 for Destiny 2. Bungie stated that swords are receiving a sort of table flip when it comes to light attacks, heavy attacks, and guarding. While you can still rip and tear through opponents as you would expect from a sword, most of what you know needs to be unlearned. The blades have been rebalanced, and a new sword energy meter is making its way to the swords. So Bungie is in a constantly changing sandbox world of Destiny right now. The plan is that every season of this year's content and future years to come, that the sandbox of play will change drastically. This season alone, we were introduced to new solar subclass changes, making some more viable, and speedrunners even found that the top tree of Dawnblade, which allowed you to air dash, made for some of the best movement tech in the game. The next piece of this is that Bungie has also made changes to things speedrunners desperately cared about for more movement tech. Sticky grenades were a way to move around the map much more flexibly and made for some world record runs in some activities. By shooting a sticky grenade at the wall, it allowed players to jump on them to get a world line off or just use them to climb to new areas. This was changed to no longer act as a physical object, so players could no longer stand on them. Even more, speedrunners feel attacked because Bungie had added a rock to the out of bounds area in the Pit of Heresy dungeon, which many felt was unnecessary and a direct change to affect speedrunners. With this sword change, you were looking at possibly the end of Worldline tech as we know it. DMG, the community manager for Bungie, made a comment on Twitter to inform everyone of what is to come. In a reply to Modern Tryhard, he said, "As I understand it, the speedrun community will need to find new ways to break the sound barrier next season. I understand this will come as a disappointment to some. Hopefully, this will bring new techniques and serve as a challenge to refresh previously established records." Now, I think on one hand, this is actually going to be a pretty cool change, with all the new sword tech coming to make swords feel way more engaging and thoughtful in the way that you play, and with the artifact, as we said before, who knows what perks they can add to make swords even crazier. Plus, this may give added energy to something like the Twilight Garrison and Bones of Ao being back in the game, since Warlocks are really the only class that can excel with a Worldline 0. Not every single class can, so Hunters and Titans could actually use a little bit of a boost there. So on that front, I'm very happy with the changes. Plus, I understand from a game design perspective how all this tech really was destroying parts of new content. Think about it like this. If you were to design a raid for Destiny with a cool ledge to jump over with enemies in your way below you, you could fight the enemies and drop down, or you could just worldline across. Keeping worldline in its current state makes the developers have to design encounters around it, unfortunately. This was the reason, as DMG states, that sticky grenades were actually changed. Like sticky nades, these strategies were growing in visibility and utility. Designing aspects around D2 around these strategies puts a hard limit on game design, whether it be activities or sword functionality. So those were DMG's reasons. However, on the other side, this really does suck since Tesseract has been in the game since Warmind, which is coming up on being 2 years old at this point. So players thought that if it was going to be patched, it would have been already. Every single world record in the game may also be at jeopardy of being completely not beatable. Plus, the added fun factor of moving around the map for the hardcore player base is now at jeopardy of being removed. Furthermore, Destiny 2 Titan skating macros were found to enhance the speed of them tremendously. I mean, this was a third-party software problem, not an in-game bug, so that one was actually patched. Other than that, nothing had been patched movement-wise to my knowledge outside of Hunter flying to this point.
I just hit the button and just hold it. It's so fast. If you want to get more height, you just look down. Oh.
The people this affects are very slim in the large scale of the player base. However, these people are the everyday 4 to 16 hour players who hop into activities simply for zooming around the map. I fear with this being removed, we will potentially see some players leaving for good. Soto Salas made a really good point to sum up how the speedrunning community mostly feels, stating that, "I think the change could go through with Worldline if instead of locking users out from using a heavy tech, it just dealt more reduced damage. Maybe scale it based on how long since it was last used, or have it hilt damage if used while the heavy CD is active. That way, it would still be possible to use Worldline as a mobility tool without excluding it from a sword overhaul. Right now, speedrunners make the conscious decision to not use a heavy weapon in places for the sake of having this movement. Without swords, a portion of planning and optimization will just go out the window, as it will always be possible to run a machine gun and a special weapon, losing a portion of the planning stage that goes into it. So before I say my piece on it, I want to know what you guys think of the sword changes to come. Do you think it's a good thing, or do you think it's a bad thing what's about to happen? If I had to give my 2 cents, I think letting everyone know that the Worldlines Tesseract was a bug to start and something Bungie was going to be patching down the road when Warmind released would have been a major help. That way players wouldn't have had the expectation that it was going to stay. How long of a window is up to Bungie though. I also don't think this was a direct attack at sword skating or Worldline. I do think this was a change to swords overall, and Worldline just happened to fit the bill of it. I think there's also other ways to go about boss design in Destiny, and we'll save that for another video, but for now, I think it's important to stress that swords in general are not bad damage weapons as much as bosses don't really allow swords to work, right? I mean, how many opportunities do you get close to a boss and then you're able to hurt that boss? Not very many. There's very little room for shotguns at the moment as they don't do enough damage, but swords specifically are usually not the best option for any of the bosses in this game. I would love to see more bosses have a malleability with swords being involved, because then I feel like that would justify some more of the change. I'm still very open with all the new ways that we're gonna get it, don't get me wrong, but I would love to see more bosses embrace swords, similar to how Axis was in Wrath of the Machine. Finally, is there other ways to combat Worldline in a given environment, other than having to design encounters where people can't just Worldline across? Well, yeah, there always is, but I really am not a game developer, so I'm just gonna leave that to maybe somebody who's in the comments who is a game developer. Also, we don't know how harsh this will be to Worldline. If I had to guess, this will more than likely just make it harder to do, but not completely demolish it, but we'll have to see. Overall, I think this video was tough for me to make. I have such a love for Worldline. I really do love this weapon, and it has become my favorite exotic in Destiny 2, outside of maybe Tractor Cannon and Anarchy. But Worldline really has changed everything. It made movement very, very fluid, fun, added a high ceiling of skill, and honestly made for some of the best moments in the game. Is it going to be sad? Yeah, but these are the risks that we take when we try to play a game that's always going to be changing. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but it is going to always be changing. Thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy, a like would be greatly appreciated, as well as a subscription. You can always follow me on Twitch, the link will be at the top of the description as well. Thank you, and until next time, stay sexy.
I guess it's not predictable, huh?
Go.
No, we're resetting if you don't get back there.
Oh my god.
See, the wish,
Go.
the wish team knows not to listen to anyone but me, but clearly you guys don't know yet, so we're gonna learn the hard way. And go. Oh, reset.
I'll get left, I'll get left.
Oh, I just threw it at the ship.
Yeah.
Wait, I can grab your ball. Wait.
Go towards it, go towards it.
I can't. I don't have a sword. Oh, did I get it?
Yeah, you got it! No!
What? If this is a record, that's
No, that's not record, it's not.
We're good.
Oh, yikes. Okay. Are you f***ing serious?
And then you get to level 7.
fucking my ass.